Here we are in Maui, and look at these Blue Weber agaves. Look at the size of these. There's Monica, who's 5'9", just to give you an idea.
Again. So in 2011, he planted 200 plants. Exactly, very sustainable. And then they just shoot out these little pups, we call them, or huelos in Spanish. We'll harvest them all, roll them onto a load trailer. We only harvest 800 pounds at a time. So sometimes it's 5, 6 plants, sometimes it's 2 plants, 1.5 even. Essentially we roll them onto a trailer, back it up into here, and then we use this axe, which is also super sharp, and the tools to split the plants into like 30-pound chunks that we can actually lift. Because the next step is loading up our steam oven. I'm gonna open this door right here so you guys can take a peek. So there's nothing in it right now, but essentially we would stack that 800 pounds of agave just all the way about to the ceiling. The capacity of this oven is about 800 pounds, a bit more. Traditional method of cooking,
40 hours.
which would be a lower and slower, unpressurized steam cooking. He built the doors, every single weld. He built our whole still. He built this little still, all the welds. He built our crusher. Everything here is designed and built by the guy that owns the operation, and he's also the single distiller. So that's why we're on a little shutdown right now, because he's in Colorado, and there's only 6 people in the whole operation.
She heard sugar. Wow.
Let me grab you one more. What do you think? This, it functions it accomplishes the same thing, but functions a bit differently. So the whole table spins instead of the wheel. This wheel weighs about 300 pounds. We can raise and lower it. So we'll start with it up high and then lower it down. We'll start with it up high and then lower it down as we crush. Tanks. So we've got 3 fermenters. They're each 230 gallons. They're all empty right now. But basically 1 oven load will fill 1 fermenter. And so it takes 4 crushing cycles, 200 pounds a piece roughly, to fill one of these. And typically we'll do that once or twice a week. And that'll yield about 120 bottles.
Are you adding yeast? Is it wild yeast? Or
It's a wild yeast from the plants here, but we've cultured that yeast. So we took a plant cutting, some of that sterile sweet juice from the oven, and some yeast nutrient, and cultured a yeast, and we have that in a refrigerator. And essentially, when we want to restart, we'll dump it in here, and then it's just propagating. We just take a few scoops from this one, put it in the next one, kind of like your sourdough. At first, Paul tried a commercial tequila yeast, he tried a champagne yeast, he tried other stuff, and it was okay, but he didn't get the great flavors he wanted until he switched to using the wild yeast. Essentially, after 6 days in that fermenter, we're at about 6% alcohol, and then it gets pumped into here. So basically the yeast are making the alcohol, and then the still is concentrating the alcohol. So we'll distill it once. That's called the stripping run. It's the first distillation. And then the product of that first distillation goes into that leftmost tank. And that's called the low wines. That's about 26% alcohol. And then we pump it all back into here and do the second distillation. So we take a bit of what we're bottling that day, put it in there, and that's what rinses out those bottles. And then Put 4 in here, just like that essentially. 23 seconds later, they're all full. Pull them out, hand cork one at a time, heat gun to seal it, and then they get passed across the aisle. We set up another table here. We label one at a time, and then I typically put the back labels on, and then I box them up, and that's it.